Get it in.
Told me like God on this beat, take it straight to the top.
you all for joining the chat. I appreciate y'all. Spread the word. We getting it in over here. We're going to start discussing on topic in just a few minutes. Once we get a few more viewers in.
Put me like God on this beat, take it straight to the top.
We gotta do better than this. Thank you for the like, baby.
Put me like God on this beat, take it straight to the top.
Here we go. Here we go.
Once again, thank you for tuning in to the channel.
Everybody, please leave comments. Leave comments.
I got to thinking, no better time than the present. So this one I want to talk about what we did in the prison. I'm an extrovert, so I have, for some particular reason, I have a knack of talking to people. I don't know if it's the psychology that I've taken over the years or what it is exactly, but I found that when I was in jail, it didn't take long before I could start talking to people, and bringing this around to a lot of different folks. And somebody new would come in, and there would be some people that already were waking up to this kind of thing, and so that just reinforced, made it a little easier for me to talk about this stuff with people. In a previous video, I talked about charging the warden with 2 counts of felony forgery. That was the reason, I think, why they kept me there for so long. I don't think any prison wanted to accept me. Or they were afraid that if we let this guy go, man, he's going to do this thing to another one. So let's just, hold him here or whatever the case may be. But I was in a facility that you usually only stay at for about 45 days, and they ship you out to some other thing, another different prison. But while I was there, I took some classes. They're like, you got to take this class. Okay, when you're locked down for 23 hours out of the day, and they say, hey, would you like to go spend, Monday through Friday sitting in a classroom with 12 other people, learning how to readjust to society after being locked up, a year or whatever. So, and then I haven't been in prison, 2 months, so I don't know how much I'm out of line. But I'll take the class, and I went in there and I started talking to some of the other inmates, and they were in other pods, and got to talking to some Moors, and got to talking to some insane clown posse dudes, and different types of people, and from different areas of Tennessee, and I got to talking to them, and by talking to the instructor, I don't even know why they pay these guys. They come in and they hand out some papers in the morning, and then they might talk for 45 minutes, and then the rest of the time you're in this class, the dude passes out puzzles and colored pencils, and you pretty much just sitting around coloring on stuff, playing games and talking with the other inmates. And so I learned how to, I learned people, how to talk to them, and it wasn't uncommon for inmates in the pod to come up, and talk through the crack of the door when they were out on their rec time. One guy I talked to, his name they called him Tabo. He shot a TBI agent behind the ear. And I was in a pod with him. I was in a gangbanger pod. Yeah, for about 5.5 months. I was in this gangbanger pod, and there's quite a few murderers in there, and they'd put 4 different gangs in there. So and they all had their own phones. This is a G phone. This is a blood phone. After I got to talking to most of the OGs, they're like, hey, man, you want to get on the G phone, I'll get you in there. Mm-hmm. So, I learned how to talk to the older guys. And, once you talk to the older guys, they'll get the younger spazzes, under control. But Tabo came to me and he said, hey, man, I heard you understand some legal stuff. When you look at my case, I said, yeah, sure. So bring it to me. He said, well, okay, he brought it to me, and I said, I'll read it over the weekend. but before I could give it to him on Monday, they shipped him. So I had all this guy's paperwork, and they took him back to Jackson, Tennessee. Well, I was under the impression that he was already sentenced. He's like, man, I got a new lawyer, and this lawyer's trying to keep the death penalty off of me, and so I'm thinking, that this is already over, and he's waiting to be sentenced. But he was sent back to prison for violating his parole or probation. They put him in effect, and so I think I lock him up. He's a murderer. And I looked at all of his paperwork. Well, I held on to his paperwork. About 4 or 5 days later, they brought him back, and he said, "Hey, homie, what can you tell me?" I said, "Well, you're pretty much screwed. If you're already sentenced, man, you're pretty much screwed. I don't know what you can do about it." He said, "Man, I ain't been to trial on this yet." I said, "Oh, okay, that's a different story." I said, "Let me think about it a little bit, and I'll talk to you at chow time." So I got to thinking about it. I said, "Wait a minute, So I seen him at chow, and this guy got mad respect from all the homies, man. You kill a cop and go to prison, and you're in a gang, you pretty much can write your own ticket. So I'm talking to him, chow, man. He rolls up on me. He sits down next to me, right? And, the guards normally don't let you do that stuff, but this is taboo. So he sits down next to me. He says, "So what's up, homie?" I said, "Hey, you know what? You could probably try this, and it'll probably keep you from getting the death penalty." They had an airplane in the sky over this whole. It was a drug deal gone bad, over $950. Shot the agent right behind the ear. There was cameras in the vehicle and audio. There wasn't no getting around this.
He dead in the water.
I said, "So, let's try to keep the death penalty off you." He said, "So what would you do?" I said, "Well, if it was me, I would go in there and I would say, look, Ronald Reagan started the drug wars in the 80s. So actually he declared war on drugs, and which means you're an enemy combative. Drug dealers are enemy combative. And here's this agent who is out of uniform, pretending to be one of your soldiers, on your side of the battlefield, in your territory," and they were in the projects. If I was you, I'd go in there and I'd tell them, "Hey, man, this is a war. I'm an enemy combative. You can imprison me, but you can't kill me. That goes against the Geneva Convention." So I talked with this guy for a little while because he wasn't really that bright. And I talked to this guy for a little while, quite a while actually. And he said, "Well, I'm going back next week, man, and I'll talk to this lawyer." So he leaves, and then he comes back, and I'm like, "So what'd your lawyer say, man?" He said, when I told him what you said, he said, "Who told you that?" He said, "Well, this sovereign dude that I'm in prison with." And he said, "That's great. That's a great defense, man." He said, "But I wouldn't do it." He said, "I'm your lawyer, and I'm not going to argue that. That's a great argument, and it'll probably keep you from being, executed." He said, "But I'm not going to do that. I try something like that, man, I'm going to lose my license." So I learned how to talk to people, and I was in contact with quite a few dangerous people. But I always felt comfortable. I don't know, for some reason, I don't think I ever felt like I was scared. And, but eventually they sent me to Turney Center. Like I said in the last video, Turney Center, military industrial complex, they had a woodworking plant on the compound. And, if you were good enough, you're a good boy and everything, and didn't get any trouble, eventually you could get on at the plant, and the plant paid good. My first cellie was a convicted murderer that worked at the plant. He made really good money in comparison. He had done 28 years on a murder conviction, and when I talked to him, my first time in where I'm going, they put me in a cell with a murderer. You know what I mean? So, but he was cool, and statistically, most people that kill people don't kill again. But I got to talking to people when I got there, and it took a little while, for everybody kind of, they're always asking me, "Hey man, what you in for?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I've never been told." "Oh, well, you're a child molester. You got to be a chomo. You don't want to show your papers." No, I'm not. So I would show them what the TDOC gave me. When you're talking about 16 sheets of paper, 42 charges, you're like,
Wow.
show me your Thomas report so we know you're not a chomo. Okay, here you go. 16 pages. Damn, man. Mine's 1 or 2, You got 16 pages of charges. So they'd see that once they figured out, I was cool and what I was really in there for. A lot of them started warming up to me, and I got to talking to them. Well, one of my friends was a 5-time convicted murderer, and he fought over 28 years and gave 4 of those convictions back. So he's just in prison for one murder. And he said, "Man, why don't you ever ask me about the killing and stuff, man?" I said, "Man, I didn't figure it was any of my business, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of people that deserve a killing. So I don't care. That's your deal." But we became real close. He was a Nation of Islam, and Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X kind of thing. And we got along real well. And once I got to talking to him, he's like, "You got some legal knowledge, man. This is taking me years to get where I'm at." And so I started going down to the library. We had an awesome library. And got down there, and there's really nice legal library, the best one in the state, as far as prison libraries go. And, I spent a lot of time down there. I was down there all the time, every time the doors open, I was in there reading law books, and, I've read all kinds of books, man. Don't kill again. But I got to talking to people when I got there, and it took a little while, for everybody kind of, they're always asking me, "Hey man, what you in for?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I've never been told." "Oh, well, you're a child molester. You got to be a chomo. You don't want to show your papers." No, I'm not. So I would show them what the TDOC gave me. When you're talking about 16 sheets of paper, 42 charges, you're like, "Show me your Thomas report so we know you're not a chomo." Okay, here you go. 16 pages. Damn, man. Mine's 1 or 2, You got 16 pages of charges. So they'd see that once they figured out, I was cool and what I was really in there for. A lot of them started warming up to me, and I got to talking to them. Well, one of my friends was a 5-time convicted murderer, and he fought over 28 years and gave 4 of those convictions back. So he's just in prison for one murder. And he said, "Man, why don't you ever ask me about the killing and stuff, man?" I said, "Man, I didn't figure it was any of my business, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of people that don't kill again." But I got to talking to people when I got there, and it took a little while, for everybody kind of, they're all 11 of the inmates were released. So, and I wrote it on jurisdictional challenge. Every one of them was on jurisdictional challenge. Because, see, you can challenge the jurisdiction even after the conviction. That's some pretty serious stuff, So you can be convicted and be in prison and, doing a sentence, years go by, and you can still challenge the jurisdiction. And when you write a Habe based on the they're always asking me, hey, man, what you in for? So, what can we do? I said, well, it sounds like a conditional acceptance. He said, well, what's that? I showed him a copy of one. Man, he took off. He's going in for an appeal. Okay, so dude comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, how should I do this? How should I handle this when I go in here? Yeah, we served the warden, the guards, everybody that was involved with a conditional acceptance. And he said, how should I go in there? I said, well, first off, pray a little bit. That never hurts. And, no matter what.
All right. On the DS-11 passport application form, basically it says male, female, or other. What do you think about putting other and add, hey Chris, and add man or woman, sir, as opposed to male or female? Good question. I'm going to type in, we're going to leave him a comment. Okay, so he was asking, when you filling out these paperwork and trying to get your independence, but remain uh, a nationalist of the United States, a naturalized citizen is what is considered, then you want to make sure that all of your identifying documents um, line up with each other. And this is the reason why a lot of people go and purchase passports, because they don't want to continue to having a ID, uh, driver's license that is issued by their Department of Transportation. Um, and I really want to get into this topic once I start doing some paperwork. We're going to discuss why you put what on a document. This is the reason why people have these type of questions, because a lot of the content don't give you the whys. And so uh, this particular video, Chris is not providing the whys, and the commenter is asking questions. But generally, when Chris does a video on how to process these documents, he will tell you all the whys and explain to you what you're doing, so that you're not just creating documents that you have no idea what they mean. Most important is to understand what you're writing, and then you can freely do that without being coached or counseled every step of the way. But we understand when you're starting out, you need some guidance. So we want to try to have some broadcasts to do that. We're going to start the broadcast right now and start over in just a little bit. I'm going to check out these files My homie been sending me, he's sending me all kinds of files. If y'all like to have a consultation with Chris, he know his shit. I'm telling you that. He know his shit.